What is a sentence that sounds harmless but has destroyed more ambition than open failure ever could? I'll wait for the right time. It feels responsible. It feels mature. It feels wise. Yet behind that sentence often hides fear wearing the mask of logic. You tell yourself you are preparing. You say you are studying the market, strengthening your skills, gathering resources. Preparation is admirable, but there is a thin line between preparation and postponement, and most men cross it without noticing. The idea of the right time is seductive. It suggests that one day circumstances will align perfectly. Your confidence will be high, your finances stable, your doubts quiet, the economy favorable, the support unanimous. But perfection is a myth that postpones power. Have you noticed that the people who move ahead rarely feel fully ready? They move while uncertain. They move while imperfect. They move while afraid. Readiness is often discovered in action, not in waiting. When you delay, you are not standing still. You are training your mind to hesitate. Each postponed decision reinforces a habit of retreat. Soon hesitation becomes familiar. Familiar becomes comfortable. And comfort becomes your ceiling. Ask yourself honestly, how many times have you said soon? How many plans are waiting in notebooks, in drafts, in conversations that never turned into execution? How many ideas have faded because they were not acted upon quickly? Time does not pause while you deliberate. Competitors advance. Opportunities evolve. Energy fluctuates. What felt possible 6 months ago begins to feel distant because momentum was never created. There is a cruel irony here. The longer you wait to feel confident, the less confident you become. Confidence is not built by contemplation alone. It is built by repeated evidence that you can act under pressure. The mind grows bold through movement. It grows timid through avoidance. You may believe waiting protects you from failure. In truth, it protects you from growth. Growth requires friction. Friction requires exposure. Exposure feels risky, so you negotiate with yourself. I'll start next quarter. I'll begin when things settle. I just need a little more time. But what you truly need is decision. Decision ends negotiation. It ends the internal debate between safety and ambition. It signals to your mind that retreat is no longer an option. There is a law here. Action clarifies. You think you need clarity before action, but clarity sharpens through motion. Plans adjust, skills improve. Strategy evolves once movement begins. When you remain still, imagination magnifies obstacles. Every risk feels larger. Every potential mistake feels catastrophic. But once engaged, the mind recalibrates. What looked impossible becomes manageable. The truth about waiting is uncomfortable. It often has less to do with timing and more to do with fear of criticism, fear of loss, fear of imperfection. Waiting feels safer than risking visible failure. But waiting carries its own invisible cost. Regret. Regret is heavier than failure. Failure teaches. Regret lingers. It whispers years later, reminding you of the moment you almost acted. Consider this. What if the right time is not discovered but declared? What if timing is created the moment you commit, regardless of conditions? History is filled with individuals who began in imperfect climates, in unstable markets, in uncertain personal circumstances. They did not wait for peace. They built in motion. You may believe your situation is unique. It is. But uncertainty is universal. No one begins with full assurance. Those who succeed accept incomplete information and move anyway. The greatest danger in waiting is that it erodes urgency. Urgency fuels discipline. Discipline fuels momentum. Momentum fuels opportunity. Remove urgency and the chain weakens. Imagine starting today, not because you feel fully prepared, but because you are tired of postponing your potential. Imagine sending the proposal, making the call, launching the project, initiating the conversation. Notice what happens internally when you act. Energy rises, focus sharpens, identity shifts. You are no longer someone planning to start. You are someone who started. That shift changes everything. In this lesson, you will learn how to interrupt the habit of delay, how to break perfectionism, how to initiate movement before confidence arrives. You will discover that readiness is often a byproduct of courage, but before technique comes truth. The perfect moment is an illusion that rewards hesitation. The only moment that carries power is the one you choose. Start before you are ready, not recklessly, but resolutely. Because waiting will never make you braver. Action will, and the clock is not your enemy. Your hesitation is. Let us begin by stripping the phrase of its disguise. I will wait for the right time. Spoken calmly, it sounds responsible. It carries the tone of caution, of maturity, of wisdom. Yet I have studied thousands of men who postponed under this banner, and I tell you plainly, in most cases it is fear speaking softly. Fear rarely shouts. It whispers. It suggests prudence. It recommends patience. It advises more research, more preparation, more certainty. And because the suggestion appears intelligent, it goes unchallenged. Preparation is necessary, but preparation without a definite point of action becomes delay. There is a narrow line between sharpening your tools and polishing them indefinitely because you fear the test. The idea of a perfect season seduces the mind. It promises that one day your finances will feel secure, your confidence firm, your doubts silent, your critics absent. On that day, you imagine you will begin boldly. Such a day does not arrive. Confidence is not granted before action. It is earned after action. Certainty does not precede movement. It follows it. Consider the men who built great enterprises. They did not begin in tranquil climates. They began amid uncertainty. Markets fluctuated. Critics doubted. Resources were limited. Yet they declared the moment sufficient. Henry Ford did not wait until the entire world agreed with his vision. He began with a conviction and adjusted through experience. His readiness grew with motion. The man who waits for universal approval will wait a lifetime. Every postponed decision strengthens a subtle habit. The mind records delay as acceptable. The next hesitation becomes easier. Soon you no longer recognize hesitation as weakness. You experience it as caution. Habit forms identity. Identity governs action. If you habitually postpone, you begin to see yourself as careful, deliberate, measured. In truth, you may simply be hesitant. 10 years can disappear beneath this polite disguise. 20 can dissolve while you prepare. 30 can pass before you realize that waiting did not protect you. It diminished you. The world does not reward contemplation alone. It rewards execution. Observe how others respond to a man who moves decisively. Even before results appear, they sense authority. They interpret motion as belief. They align with direction. The man who waits signals uncertainty. Others hesitate to trust him with responsibility because he has not yet trusted himself. Ask yourself honestly, how many times have you written a plan and never executed it? How many drafts sit unfinished? How many ideas faded because you told yourself, not yet? The cost of waiting is rarely immediate. That is why it is dangerous. It appears harmless in the moment, yet opportunities evolve. Competitors advance. Energy shifts. Time does not pause while you deliberate. The longer you wait to feel ready, the less ready you feel. This is law. The mind grows timid through avoidance. It grows bold through exposure. The right time is not discovered. It is declared. The moment you decide, I begin now, you shift from speculation to creation. That shift alters identity immediately. You are no longer a planner. You are a builder. Imagine if you had acted promptly on the ideas that stirred you 5 years ago. Where might you stand? Imagine if you had refused to wait for confidence and instead built it through experience. 10 years can be saved by interrupting this illusion today. 20 by refusing to rehearse soon again. 30, by adopting a permanent rule. I act before conditions are perfect. Affirm daily. The time becomes right when I decide. Action strengthens me. Delay weakens me. Speak these words until they feel natural. You need not act recklessly. You must act resolutely. There is a difference. Recklessness ignores reason. Resolution refuses to hide behind it. The perfect season is a myth that comforts hesitation. It suggests that someday you will feel different. You will not feel different until you behave differently. Start before you are ready, not because circumstances are ideal, but because waiting will never make you braver. Only action will. The years you save by abandoning perfect timing will not be returned in applause. They will be returned in progress, and progress, once begun, builds its own season. Delay rarely announces itself as danger. It arrives politely. It says, "Not today." It promises tomorrow will be better. It suggests that a small postponement will make little difference. And because the consequence is not immediate, the mind accepts the suggestion without alarm. Yet delay compounds. Just as money grows when invested repeatedly, hesitation grows when rehearsed repeatedly. A single postponed action seems harmless. A pattern of postponement becomes identity. The law of repetition governs both success and stagnation. What you practice becomes natural. If you practice beginning promptly, promptness strengthens. If you practice postponing, postponement becomes reflex. The first delay requires explanation. The 10th requires none. Ambition, when not acted upon, begins to shrink. At first, the idea remains vivid. After repeated postponement, it dulls. The mind protects itself from discomfort by lowering expectation. This is the quiet tragedy. You do not consciously abandon your dream. You simply delay it often enough that its urgency fades. Urgency fuels discipline. Discipline fuels momentum. Remove urgency, and effort softens. Consider the man who tells himself he will start next month. Next month arrives with new reasons to wait. A year passes. He calls it prudence. 5 years pass. He calls it responsibility. 10 years pass. He calls it circumstance. In truth, he rehearsed delay until it felt reasonable. Meanwhile, another man with less preparation but greater decisiveness began. He stumbled, he corrected, he adjusted, he advanced. The difference was not talent. It was timing declared rather than postponed. The compound interest of inaction is subtle. Opportunities do not wait in their original form. They evolve. Markets change. Energy shifts. What felt fresh becomes stale. 10 years can be lost, not in dramatic failure, but in polite postponement. 20 can vanish in repeated later. 30 can dissolve before you notice that delay became identity. Observe how others respond to a man who acts promptly. They interpret consistency as reliability. They sense seriousness. They align with momentum. Conversely, the man who delays signals uncertainty. Others hesitate to commit to him because he hesitates with himself. Break the habit at the smallest level. When the impulse to postpone appears, challenge it immediately. Act within minutes rather than days. Interrupt the pattern before it matures. This interruption may feel uncomfortable. Good. Comfort is the soil in which delay grows. Affirm daily, I do not postpone my purpose. I act when the task appears. Each small act compounds into power. Repeat until later feels foreign. Imagine reclaiming 10 years by refusing a single postponement today. Imagine reclaiming 20 by installing a rule of immediate response. Imagine reclaiming 30 by eradicating delay entirely from your vocabulary. The habit of delay is not broken by reflection alone. It is broken by replacement. Replace hesitation with action. Replace postponement with initiation. Momentum begins in the smallest decision. When you answer the call immediately, complete the task promptly, begin before doubt expands, you invest in acceleration. Acceleration shortens distance between desire and achievement. The man who delays distances himself from his own ambition. The man who acts shortens the path. Delay compounds into regret. Action compounds into confidence. Choose which will grow. And remember, the difference between those who drift and those who build is often measured not in talent, but in the refusal to postpone. Act now, not recklessly, but decisively. For every postponed opportunity is a seed planted in the soil of stagnation, and every prompt action is a seed planted in the soil of progress. Let us speak plainly. Most delay is not caused by lack of knowledge. It is caused by fear disguised as intelligence. Fear rarely introduces itself honestly. It does not say, "I am afraid." It says, "Let us think about this more carefully." It says, "The timing is delicate." It says, "We should refine the plan." The more intelligent the man, the more elegant his excuse becomes. He can justify hesitation with statistics. He can defend delay with research. He can construct arguments that sound prudent. Yet beneath the reasoning often lies a simple reluctance to be exposed to risk. Fear of criticism whispers, "What will they say if this fails?" Fear of loss whispers, "What if you invest and it disappears?" Fear of imperfection whispers, "It must be flawless before it is seen." These fears are natural. They are not shameful. But when they govern action, they become costly. Endless refinement is one of the most respected disguises of fear. A man polishes, edits, revises, restructures, and postpones release in the name of quality. Meanwhile, opportunity moves forward without him. The world does not require perfection before participation. It rewards participation followed by improvement. Consider men who introduced ideas the public initially doubted. They did not wait for applause. They accepted criticism as the price of motion. They adjusted through experience rather than retreating into safety. Their courage was not absence of fear, it was decision despite it. Others observed their willingness to act and interpreted it as confidence. Authority is often born not from certainty, but from visible resolve. The man who moves while afraid appears braver than the man who waits for fear to vanish. Fear does not vanish through waiting. It strengthens through avoidance. The longer you postpone exposure, the larger the imagined consequence becomes. 10 years can be lost protecting pride, 20 protecting reputation, 30 protecting the illusion of perfection. Expose fear directly. Ask yourself, am I refining because improvement is necessary or because exposure feels uncomfortable? Am I delaying because the market requires patience or because I require reassurance? Honest answers dissolve disguise. Replace protective logic with decisive faith. Faith does not mean recklessness. It means confidence in your ability to adjust once engaged. Affirm daily, I act even when uncertain. I improve through motion. Fear does not dictate my timing. Repeat until fear feels like signal rather than command. Fear of criticism weakens when you accept that criticism is inevitable. Fear of loss weakens when you accept that loss teaches. Fear of imperfection weakens when you accept that growth requires visible flaws. The perfect plan does not exist. The executed plan evolves. Imagine reclaiming 10 years by refusing to let fear hide behind strategy. Imagine reclaiming 20 by exposing every elegant excuse as hesitation. Imagine reclaiming 30 by living under decision rather than defense. Strategy is valuable, but strategy without execution is merely contemplation. Fear will continue offering polished reasons to delay. You must answer with commitment. Expose the mask. Call fear by its name, then move. For the men who build do not eliminate fear before they begin. They begin, and fear gradually loses authority. That is the difference between cautious drift and courageous growth. And growth belongs to those who act before certainty arrives. One of the greatest deceptions the mind practices upon itself is this: when I fully understand, I will begin. It sounds rational, it sounds disciplined, it sounds intelligent. Yet in practice, it paralyzes more ambition than ignorance ever could. Certainty rarely precedes action. Clarity is sharpened in motion. When you remain still, the mind speculates. It magnifies risk. It rehearses possible failure. It invents obstacles in vivid detail. The longer you remain in contemplation, the more formidable the imagined mountain becomes. But something extraordinary occurs once you step forward. The imagined mountain reduces to a manageable incline. Action introduces facts where speculation once lived. Facts reduce fear. Experience replaces assumption. Adjustment becomes possible only after engagement. Thomas Edison did not wait until he could see every step clearly. He experimented. Each attempt refined the next. Clarity was discovered through repetition, not granted beforehand. The man who waits for total certainty demands what life rarely provides. You believe you need clarity before you begin. In truth, you need beginning before clarity. Stillness breeds distortion. Motion breeds proportion. When you take the first step, make the call, send the letter, release the work, the mind shifts from imagining consequence to managing consequence. This shift reduces anxiety immediately. Confidence grows from evidence. Evidence is produced by action. Therefore, confidence cannot be fully built in contemplation alone. This is why the man who waits to feel confident waits indefinitely. Confidence is constructed in layers of experience. Each act completed adds proof. Each obstacle navigated strengthens belief. Each correction improves judgment. Others respond differently to the man who acts. Even imperfect execution communicates seriousness. Movement signals commitment. Commitment attracts cooperation. The man who waits appears unsure. The man who acts appears capable, even before success is visible. 10 years can vanish waiting for total clarity, 20 waiting for flawless understanding, 30 believing that confidence must precede courage. Reverse the order. Courage first, confidence follows. Act before clarity feels complete, then refine. Perfection emerges through adjustment, not anticipation. Affirm daily, I move before I understand everything. Action sharpens my vision. Experience strengthens my judgment. Repeat until it feels natural. When resistance whispers that you need more time to think, answer with a small step forward. You need not conquer the entire objective in one motion. Begin with one deliberate act. Observe what happens internally once motion starts. Focus sharpens. Thought organizes. Solutions surface. This is not magic. It is mental alignment activated by engagement. The world does not reward those who think longest. It rewards those who move and improve. If you would save 10 years, begin before clarity feels complete. If you would save 20, replace analysis with measured experimentation. If you would save 30, adopt this rule permanently. Clarity grows in motion. Waiting will not remove uncertainty. Only experience will. And experience is earned through action. Start, refine, continue. Let motion teach you what contemplation never could. For the truth is simple, though uncomfortable. Readiness is rarely discovered in stillness. It is forged in movement. There is a transformation more powerful than strategy. It is identity. A man may possess knowledge, ambition, even desire in abundance. Yet if he sees himself as someone who is preparing rather than doing, his conduct will follow that self-image faithfully. The most decisive moment is not the launch of a grand enterprise. It is the instant you cross from intention into execution. When you begin, even imperfectly, something internal rearranges. You are no longer the man who speaks of starting. You are the man who started. That distinction is profound. Intention feels noble. It allows you to speak of future accomplishment without exposure to risk. Embodiment requires action. It demands that you live what you declared. Unfinished plans weaken self-trust. Each time you promise yourself you will begin and fail to do so, the subconscious records the inconsistency. Gradually, belief in your own word diminishes. Self-trust is the foundation of confidence. When you act, you rebuild it. The first execution may not be elegant. It may be imperfect. It may attract criticism. Yet it produces something contemplation cannot: evidence. Evidence reshapes identity. You move from "I hope to" into "I have." That shift alters posture, tone, and presence. Others sense it immediately. The man who has begun speaks differently from the man who intends to begin. Decisiveness builds reputation before results mature. People align with motion. They hesitate around delay. Consider how you perceive two men. One speaks endlessly of his plans, the other quietly begins. Whom do you respect more? Whom do you trust with responsibility? The answer is clear. Identity is strengthened by public commitment. When you act visibly, you bind yourself to continuation. Retreat becomes more uncomfortable than persistence. 10 years may be lost living in the identity of the planner, 20 in rehearsing intention, 30 in preserving comfort under the illusion of readiness. Shift identity early and time compresses. Begin something measurable today. Publish, announce, commit, not recklessly, but definitively. Each visible step deepens the new identity. You are no longer waiting, you are participating. Affirm daily, I am a man who begins, I execute my plans. My word becomes action. Repeat until hesitation feels inconsistent with who you are. The difference between drifting and advancing is often nothing more than identity embraced early. You need not conquer the entire ambition at once. You must simply cross the line from preparation into participation. Once crossed, the mind reorganizes itself around progress. Confidence strengthens. Discipline sharpens. Opportunity responds. The world treats you differently when you treat yourself differently. Imagine reclaiming 10 years by refusing to remain in planning. Imagine reclaiming 20 by acting on ideas quickly. Imagine reclaiming 30 by adopting the identity of a starter permanently. This is not dramatic, it is deliberate. Begin. Let identity follow, then protect that identity with continued execution. For once you have started, the greatest danger is returning to preparation as refuge. Guard against it. Continue acting, continue refining, continue embodying. The man who starts once may falter. The man who embraces starting as identity advances without prolonged pause. Become that man. And the years that once slipped quietly beneath waiting will begin to align behind movement. That is the power of identity. And identity is chosen through action. There is a burden heavier than defeat. It is regret. Defeat instructs. Regret haunts. A failed attempt provides evidence, correction, and growth. An unattempted ambition provides only speculation. The mind tolerates failure more easily than it tolerates unfinished possibility. Failure ends uncertainty. Regret prolongs it. When you act and stumble, you learn, you refine, you strengthen resilience. When you delay and watch opportunity pass, you carry the quiet question, what if? That question lingers for years. Men who fail publicly often rise with greater clarity. They know what does not work. They understand risk more realistically. Their confidence becomes grounded in experience rather than imagination. The man who never risks preserves pride but weakens power. Fear magnifies imagined consequences. It suggests humiliation will be unbearable. It predicts loss will be devastating. Yet these projections are rarely as severe as anticipated. Experience reduces exaggeration. Action shrinks the unknown. Those who attempt boldly earn respect, even from critics. There is dignity in motion. There is stagnation in avoidance. Observe how you respond to someone who tried and faltered. You may critique the result, but you cannot deny the courage. Compare that with someone who forever prepares, yet never participates. One evokes respect. The other inspires doubt. 10 years may be lost protecting pride. 20 guarding reputation. 30 postponing exposure. Regret compounds silently. Each unattempted ambition becomes memory. Memory becomes reminder. Reminder becomes dissatisfaction. Freedom begins when you accept that failure is part of growth. Once you embrace that truth, hesitation weakens. Affirm daily, I prefer growth over comfort. I act though imperfect. I learn through motion. Repeat until fear feels manageable. The man who acts may fail. The man who waits fails invisibly. One failure strengthens, the other erodes. If you would save 10 years, accept the possibility of visible error. If you would save 20, refuse to protect pride above progress. If you would save 30, choose action over imagined humiliation. Regret does not shout immediately. It whispers quietly as years pass. Failure may bruise briefly. Regret lingers indefinitely. You must decide which burden you are willing to carry. The men who achieve extraordinary results are not immune to failure. They simply refuse to let fear of it prevent beginning. They move, they adjust, they persist, and in time the very failures that once threatened pride become stories of resilience. Start before you are ready, not because success is guaranteed, but because growth is. Failure instructs. Waiting erodes. Choose instruction, for the cost of waiting is seldom measured in money alone. It is measured in opportunity forfeited and potential unexplored. Act, learn, continue. Let regret find no residence in your memory. For the heaviest weight a man can carry is the knowledge that he never tried. There comes a moment when a man must stop searching for permission from circumstance and begin issuing instruction to himself. The world will not gather to inform you that the hour has arrived. There is no trumpet for readiness. Timing is not granted. It is declared. The turning point in every achievement is decision. Decision is not preference. It is commitment without retreat. The moment you decide fully, you alter the direction of your life more than you realize. Energy reorganizes. Attention sharpens. Opportunity begins to respond. Urgency fuels discipline. When you tell yourself, I begin now, something shifts internally. Delay weakens. Action strengthens. The mind interprets decisiveness as seriousness. Momentum begins with declaration. You need not possess total certainty. You need only possess resolution. Once declared, the moment gains power. When you tell yourself the time is now, your conduct aligns with that command. Consider the men who rose from obscurity to influence. They did not wait for ideal climate. They announced their intention through action. They forced movement in imperfect conditions. Through persistence, they bent circumstance gradually in their favor. Time does not rule the decisive man as strictly as it rules the hesitant one. The hesitant waits for opportunity. The decisive generates it. Others respond to urgency. They interpret it as leadership. When you act promptly, speak clearly, and move without prolonged hesitation, people sense direction. Direction inspires cooperation. 10 years can vanish while you ask whether the hour is correct. 20 while you study conditions. 30 while you await a sign. Declare the moment sufficient. Build structure that supports immediacy. Establish daily habits of initiation. Remove unnecessary delay from routine decisions. Shorten the space between thought and action. Comfort threatens urgency. Once progress appears, relaxation whispers. Guard against drift. Urgency is not panic. It is purposeful intensity. Affirm daily. The moment becomes powerful when I choose it. I act without delay. I command my time rather than waiting upon it. Repeat until hesitation weakens. You do not need grand circumstances to begin. You need decision. Every day presents opportunity for declaration. Each morning you may choose to postpone or proceed. Each afternoon you may hesitate or act. Each evening you may prepare excuses or prepare execution. The decisive man reduces the number of delayed moments in his life. As those delays disappear, years compress. Progress accelerates. If you would save 10 years, decide quickly. If you would save 20, remove habitual postponement. If you would save 30, live permanently under declared timing. Do not ask whether the season is right. Make it right through motion. Do not wait for courage. Produce it through action. The perfect hour does not exist in the calendar. It exists in commitment. Start before you feel ready. Declare the moment. Then protect that declaration with disciplined persistence. In time, you will look back and see that the day you stopped waiting was the day momentum began. And momentum, once established, will carry you further than preparation alone ever could. The clock is neutral. Decision gives it direction. Make your declaration. And let the years that once slipped beneath hesitation now align behind execution. Let us end where most men never begin, with truth stripped of comfort. There is no appointed hour that will tap you upon the shoulder and whisper that destiny has arrived. There is no climate so perfect that fear evaporates, doubt disappears, and confidence stands fully formed. Those who wait for such a moment are not patient. They are paused. And pause, when prolonged, becomes permanent. You have now seen the pattern from every angle. Waiting feels intelligent. Delay feels careful. Preparation feels productive. Yet without decision, they become disguises for hesitation. The tragedy is not that men fail. The tragedy is that they never fully begin. Time does not attack you. It does not rush you. It simply moves. While you deliberate, it advances. While you refine, it continues. While you prepare for certainty, others act within uncertainty and gather experience that compounds. The world belongs to the moving. Consider how many ambitions have withered quietly beneath the phrase, "I will start soon." Soon is a gentle word. It soothes. It suggests intention without exposure, but soon rarely arrives unless it is commanded into now. The cost of waiting is seldom immediate. That is why it escapes notice. It appears harmless. A day passes, a week, a month, a year. Yet each interval without action subtly shapes identity. You begin to see yourself not as a builder, but as a planner, not as a participant, but as a spectator. Identity governs destiny. When you cross the line from preparation into participation, something irreversible occurs. You may still feel uncertain. You may still feel incomplete, yet you are no longer stalled. You are engaged. Engagement builds evidence. Evidence builds confidence. Confidence builds speed. Speed shortens the distance between ambition and result. If you would save 10 years of your life, begin acting within minutes of decision rather than months. Interrupt hesitation before it matures. Replace contemplation with measured execution. If you would save 20 years, eliminate the habit of waiting for emotional readiness. Act despite mood. Build discipline that functions independent of enthusiasm. Let mission outweigh feeling. If you would save 30 years, adopt a permanent identity as one who begins. Remove later from your vocabulary. Replace it with now. These are not dramatic changes. They are daily shifts, yet daily shifts compound. The men who built industries, who reshaped commerce, who influenced generations, did not feel perpetually prepared. They felt compelled. Compelled not by perfect conditions, but by decision. Once decided, they adjusted through experience. Experience is the only true teacher of confidence. Waiting cannot provide experience. Action can. There will always be reasons to delay. Economic uncertainty, personal doubt, incomplete knowledge, critics who question. These forces do not disappear with time. They accompany you regardless of when you begin. The difference is that when you act, you gather strength alongside them. Strength is forged in motion. Regret is forged in hesitation. Regret does not announce itself immediately. It lingers quietly. It appears in conversations about what might have been. It visits when you see others advance in fields you once considered entering. It whispers that you once stood at a crossroads and chose comfort. Failure bruises briefly. Regret scars silently. You must decide which mark you prefer. The right time is not a discovery. It is a declaration. The moment you say, "This is sufficient," and act, you bend time toward your purpose. Delay hands time authority. Decision reclaims it. This is not reckless living. It is resolute living. Recklessness ignores consequence. Resolution accepts consequence and proceeds. Let others wait for applause. Let others seek perfect assurance. Let others gather unanimous support. You move. Move with thoughtfulness, yes. Move with integrity, certainly. But move. The habit of movement creates momentum. Momentum creates opportunity. Opportunity multiplies exposure. Exposure strengthens ability. Ability increases confidence. Confidence accelerates progress. Thus the cycle turns upward. Break it with delay and it turns downward. Examine your life honestly. Where have you waited longest? Where have you told yourself that timing was not ideal? Where has preparation quietly turned into postponement? That is where your future waits. You need not conquer the entire objective tonight. You must simply begin something measurable. A call, a draft, a proposal, a commitment. The first act redefines identity. Identity redefines behavior. Behavior reshapes result. The years you reclaim by refusing to wait will not be returned in applause. They will be returned in quiet progress, in strengthened confidence, in earned respect, in opportunities that appear because you are already in motion. Others will notice. They will describe you as decisive. They will call you bold. They will attribute your advancement to talent or timing. You will know the truth. You simply stopped waiting. You began before you felt fully prepared. You acted before fear subsided. You moved before clarity completed itself. And through movement, clarity sharpened. Fear diminished, and confidence emerged. Time rewards the man who respects it enough to act. Respect time by refusing to waste it in endless contemplation. Declare the moment sufficient. Begin, continue, refine, persist. And when years pass, you will look back, not at the moment conditions aligned perfectly, but at the moment you decided they were sufficient. That decision will have saved you a decade. Repeated daily, it may save you 2. Lived permanently, it may save you 3. Start before you are ready, because readiness is rarely found in waiting. It is forged in action, and action belongs to those who refuse to let hesitation write their story.